Welcome to the Behavior Code podcast. This episode is going to be really good. I'm very interested in the subject because my awareness is raising on it. And this is the subject of female aggression and male negativity. I almost called it male complaining, you could call it. Any complaint, negativity. It's just unacceptable. And a female aggression is unacceptable in a relationship. I do not accept her aggression. I just don't accept it. It's not accepted. You know how like you go to pay for something, they're like, we don't take that here. I do not take aggression from women in a private situation. In a public situation, I don't take it. I walk away. But in a private situation with my girl, not tolerated. You can leave or this ends. This ends now. And what about his aggression? This is why I'm talking about behavior code, right? This is the Behavior Code podcast. So it's built on the idea of there's like a code of behavior, a genetic code of behavior, you could even call it, that an energy flows between the positive and the negative, the male and female. And there's more energy when you interact in a way that nature you organized to interact in a certain way. You can come in with some spiritual or whatever understandings and like not listen to natural behavior. But there's a lot of energy to be harnessed when you behave in accordance with your nature in a way that is also in accordance with your ethics. That's, what's really strong. That's why I wouldn't expect every woman to back down from me, but I expect my woman to back down from me. Why don't I expect every woman to back down from me? Because they're not my woman. I don't care. I would never raise up an aggression against a woman. That's why she should never get aggressive with a man. Because he loses either way. As soon as she gets aggressive, he loses. Because he can't win that. If he wins, he loses. If he loses, he loses. And so if she is doing that to her mate, she's making her mate a loser. And so then she ends up being with a loser, which she's not going to tolerate. She's going to get with someone else. Or she hates herself and wants to be with a loser. What she does, feminism has taught women to hate themselves, that they're not good enough as they are. They need to strive to be better than the man or equal to the man in everything he does, which is not what is natural. That's unnatural. So you can do it. I can do unnatural things, but it takes a lot of horsepower to resist. And it's better to just steer your energy to, new heights, new elevations. Okay, so now let me talk about the men. The men complaining, negativity, not acceptable. Every time, there's little insinuations I'll catch in my girl when she's like aggressive. It'll be like an eye roll, like or some kind of moving the head in kind of thing. It's snide. It's sly. These are interesting words. Anyway, it's passive aggressive and it's overtly aggressive a little bit. Well, men do that just in the little complaints, just negativity, anything that takes away from somebody else, the reducing of somebody else's accomplishments, or the yeah, buts, the classic phrase of yeah, but this, or yeah, but is just negative, negating. And negating meaning when someone says something positive, you say something to balance it so it's neutralized, which means you got to introduce negativity. Negative men are as disgusting to me as aggressive women. I don't expect women to not be negative, just like I don't expect men to not be aggressive. I expect men to not hurt people with their aggression. That's unacceptable, and that should be punished as whatever the law, people figured this stuff out. But obviously I'm not for that. But there's an aggression to being a man that isn't embraced. It's shunned, and it's only held within the reason of what the other side says is reasonable. Whatever the other side said is reasonable. But it's like, then you need to stay less aggressive than what I say is reasonable. And what you end up getting is when they can't use aggression to get you to not be aggressive, they don't have enough reason to reason with you to not be aggressive. But see, I can reason with you why not be aggressive, because you make your man a loser. He loses if he gets aggressive with you, and he loses if he just listens to you. So he has to walk away, which makes him not your man anymore. So you either push men away, which is what should happen if you get aggressive with your man, or you make your man into a loser. You showed the environment that he was a winner by being with him, because that's called pre-selection. Everyone looks around at the population of humans, and the men that have women, they have more value, all else being equal, than men who don't have women. Because why don't they have women? Depending on the woman, but if he takes care of anybody, you're assuming he's taking care of that person. That's a man. But then when you see them interact and you see her get aggressive with him and he backs down, or her get aggressive with him and he gets aggressive and she's aggressive and he's aggressive, and it's like, I don't know if that's so valuable, guy. I mean, maybe that other guy is smart by not being with that broad. You're actually lower value being with her, kind of thing. And, so that, what was I saying? Talking about female aggression, male negativity and his complaining. And that is a disempowerment. He somewhere learned that by complaining, he gets what he wants. But that's not how you get what you want as a man. Man, it's creative energy. You create what you want. You don't complain to get what you want. Nobody should really complain. But there's a negativity that's more inherent to the female because she is the weaker, smaller, fairer gender who's going to be debilitated or otherwise handicapped. Not handicapped, not in like the medical sense, handicapped in the sense of the golf sense, where like you have a handicap because you're not as good. You're going to have a baby one day on one arm. You're going to be more defenseless and you're already weaker to begin with. And what he got going for you is your connections and the fact that you are a baby maker, and men are seeking the best. Now, in today's day and age, it's a shame that would be controversial to say, but it's definitely less, you could call it less important with like the contraception or whatever. The biology is responding to the truth of the matter. And this is why relationships, maybe in the 6 months to 3 year period, is really rocky. If you get past the 3 year period, chances are he is beta. He has been whooped. He has been destroyed inside of that relationship. Chances are, if in that 3 to 6, there's a jockeying position between that 6 month and 3 year position. And usually in the first 6 months, 3 to 6 months, the woman is very submissive to her man, no matter like really what he is, just by virtue of being in love and opening herself to him. She submits in a way that in that early honeymoon phase of the relationship, she is submissive more so than she will be later in behavior. So I catch the eyes and I catch the little facial gestures, and just know that it's inappropriate for her to be aggressive because it's unreasonable, because it makes him a loser. And why would she get with the loser? She should be aggressive if she wants him to leave. Get aggressive if you want him to leave. That would be good. I mean, that's not a good strategy, but it would be a good way to get him to leave. Or he'll fight you and you could put yourself in possible immediate harm. He's going to get the worst end of it in the long run, but that doesn't mean he can't go psycho and actually hurt you. So you definitely, that's the ultimate threat, right? And if you're with a man that you're bigger, stronger, or more dangerous than, then there's a level probably of submission that just isn't possible because you're stronger. And on the other end of a man complaining, this is really the trap of modern society, which the man should really be at the forefront of leading his woman out of this. That the enslavement of modern man is not by steel shackles or whatever they used to enslave people with, a cage or whatever. He's enslaved by his mind. He's enslaved by the words and beliefs he's taken on, that he could or couldn't or should or shouldn't do certain things. He shouldn't think certain things. By bending, I went into this in the silent flute last night, by bending the definitions of words and what it means to be a man, to be a woman, what money means, what love means. They bent these words. They bent love to mean there's so many different meanings. You can't have a word that means so many different things. It doesn't make sense. You always slip through what you're trying to communicate and just like hiding. And that's the man's role. So he starts complaining because the complaint is just statement. It's a word phrasing that chances are he didn't decide that for himself. Like he wasn't sitting down one day and he was thinking really hard, writing some poetry, and he thought of this really elaborate complaint that he could then repeat over and over throughout his life because he's going to say it. That's not the first time you ever made that complaint. Whatever complaint you made, just listen to what you say and how you say it. Like it's very, very basic words. It's like early childhood words. It's a complaint you probably said as a kid that you were probably mirroring your parents because you didn't have that much social interaction as a young kid. So it's your parents' complaint. So that's when, DC's here in Zoom. You can always ask questions more in Zoom, guys. If you want to come to the live podcast talk, it's at 5 p.m. Pacific time every Tuesday. And so afterlife and reincarnation, if you got your complaining from your parents, where did they get it from? Well, from their parents and from their parents. And it's what it evolve. You could call it evolves. It mutates more is probably more accurate. It mutates over time. So it's not the same complaining phrases. For example, language evolves. So of course the complaints will change or be different, but this is the man's role. So I don't ever blame the woman or fault her for having the negative mindset, because she's designed by nature not to be a star of positivity. She's designed by nature to get the man to take care of her so that she can give offspring. And she does that best at the highest level, the most high value man that she possibly can, according to whatever she defines. Whatever she defines. The problem is a woman will be so negative. If she doesn't have someone like me around to say this is what she'll do. She'll say, well, I don't want him to be this. I don't want him to be that. As long as he's not this, as long as he's not that. That doesn't do anything for us. It doesn't specify what to be. He should be this. He should be that. The ideal man is this and that. And if you do that and follow whatever qualities you define as a woman and expand it to infinity, like the best representation of that, the highest value man, to him, you should never be aggressive if you want him. If you want him to take care of you, you should never, ever, ever be aggressive. Ever. But could you imagine a man like that complaining? So he doesn't complain. His complaint and his negativity lowers his value, and her aggression lowers her value. Now, I want her to be aggressive about my family and my creation. I want her to be aggressive about protecting, not to the wrong person. I don't want her to put herself, she should be within reason and not put herself in physical danger in a situation. But verbal danger or whatever, within reason, maybe within public, if she's defending something of mine, very good. And it's my duty to train her the art of verbal warfare, to catch people's negativity in their communication, because it's unacceptable. I give her positivity, and just so that her world around her can erode it with their negativity. No, that's not what it is. It's not what's going to happen. So, okay, so that's unacceptable. The man can't have the negative complaint. The female, her aggression, is the opposite. It's the gender difference of like what would be. So the opposite of that, he should have aggression. Should she have complaint? Well, how is she going to get what she needs from the stronger gender? How is her nature going to get, this is behavior code, right? Her nature, genetic nature. How is her nature going to get what she needs from him? Either get pregnant with his thing, and then he's going to want to take care of that naturally if he's any kind of healthy man, and she should only be choosing healthy men. But what about before that? What if they're just courting each other or whatever? Is she going to ask, will you get me this? Will you get me that? She could, but what you'll find, despite what anybody will tell you, and really no woman, one-on-one, no woman has ever argued this, and maybe there are some that would. In groups, they'll argue this. It's funny. But when it's one-on-one, all of those same women in a group that would deny it would agree that women are indirect. They're not direct with their questions. They're not direct with their communication. That whatever they're asking, they're really asking something else. They're just asking that to somehow soften it, lead into it. But they don't, I've very rarely, and I just say that because I don't know of any, met a woman that leads the conversation very well, Maybe they're good at the skill at if they were a doctor or something, and they're good at their trade. They've developed the language around that. They're good at selling real estate or something. But as far as a conversation that goes somewhere between a man and a woman, we're talking the romantic behavior code, genetic code. Okay. So she, or how am I saying? Leading, what was it saying there at the end? Leading the conversation, leading it somewhere, complaint. She gets what she wants from him by indirectly asking, which is to say, it's hot out. Some cold water. It's cold in here. You want a sweater? Yeah, we'll go get it. It's right over there. The complaint is a feminine thing. That doesn't mean I wouldn't recommend to get the guy of your dreams to complain to him. You get him to notice you, pay attention to you, want to help you in some way, but doesn't want to just like come out with it like, hey, do you want to come to my yoga class? Because that would be me hitting on the student. And I'm not going to hit on the student because I just don't hit on women, because that's just never a good strategy, ever. You hit on her when you're like making out with her. Your lips are so amazing. You know, but never any other time other than making out with her should you be like, your lips are so amazing. Like, unless you're like a lipstick designer or something, you know, then you could say that, right? So you never hit on her. What was I saying right before that? I still wanted to get that point out. His negativity, her aggression, so her complaint gets him to take care of her. So you get him to notice you, like you, and then want to make a gesture for you, but he's like a cool guy like me, and he doesn't want to you know, hit on you by just too upfront suggesting, hey, what about my value, my benefit, or whatever. How this would be like the woman is like complaining about her SI joint. You know this, or do you know what this pose is? Am I doing it right? I don't know if I'm doing it right. So it's not really a complaint, but it comes at it with like, I'm doing it wrong, correct me. So that's the negative side of things. Versus, how would you improve this? And I doubt that a woman would ever say that to me. How would you improve this? If she did, that would be very leading, and I would just treat her very intelligent. DC, how do women get the thing they want from their man? By getting them to want to take care of her. You get the man to want to take care of you by seducing him, by being soft and interested in his business and his life and his future, and obviously being beautiful, the way I pronounce that, beautiful, and was what you were talking. Oh, was what I was talking about. So anyway, that's the point of the podcast, was aggression versus negativity or complaining. So if there's any questions or comments now, I'll look at them. I see some on Facebook. Girls are counterpunchers in conversations. Yeah, we could look at that and break that down even, because a counterpuncher would be to punch back. So is the guy punching at her? And we look at this, the analogy. And I correct because I must, because people are sloppy communicators and they don't, at the very least, acknowledge. And they got to acknowledge. Maybe as I become a better and better and better communicator, I won't ever need to feel the need to like correct her or like update her communication, as I call it. Like, she needs to acknowledge. She needs to be aware of like a frowny face, or, you know, she needs to breathe so she doesn't yawn. You know, it can't all be flower and rainbows. What happens when you just have girl talk is eventually turns into like Netflix or doing something unrelated. It's just sloppy. Never seen like a really ordered, organized, you know, I talked with a lot of people. Some of them are women. I don't know, maybe like 10 or 15 women over the last couple weeks. And if they're not at work, they're going crazy. If they are at work, they're going crazy because they're at an essential thing. Unless they're working like in a grocery store or something, those people seem to be fine. If you're working in a grocery store, you seem to be stable, because it's pretty stable in a grocery store. The resources come, they go, they come in, they go out. And but a lot of the women that are working, but they're off work now and they're at home, and they're home with their kids, and they're at home, you know, just not working. Maybe they're trying to work from home. The disorder of it is, well, it's disordering, right? So punch, counter punch. Why was I talking about that? Correcting her. You know, I want to not come across as a punch. I want to correct in a way that gets the job done. And I think maybe, oh, she didn't need to buy it. This donation. I want the correction to come across in a way that doesn't feel like a punch. I don't want to punch her, but sometimes I'm firm. And it's funny because sometimes when I'm too soft, it's not listened to. So it's this calibration, and you offend her sometimes, and she needs to be okay with that. She needs to be okay with getting offended sometimes. He needs to trust that she is not going to become disloyal and somehow say something bad about you in public, or, raise up an aggression against you where there's others that could see, it just devalues you. That you must trust as a man that she won't do those things if you offend her, and that she is capable enough. You must make her, literally, every woman I've had to do this to, every woman, you must make her capable of communicating when you have offended her in a way that doesn't get aggressive with you, that just lets you know, and ideally, she doesn't lose her composure in public. That takes a few iterations. It has to happen a few times before she gets control of it. Okay. You said girls don't lead in conversation, which I agree. Male energy throws something out, girl receives and mirrors. Yeah, sort of. Who is talking is masculine, who is listening is feminine, but the conversation has a trajectory through different meanings, the different meanings of different sentences, and the vector of motion through all the meanings, you could jump around, or you could get to a point, right? A conclusion. And the overall leadership, women have a capacity to lead, just not as good as me, not in a meaningful way. They are benefiting them. I'm benefiting both of us. And any man who listens to her is lower value than her, and she should be the masculine over lower value man. Now, she can lead. It's not that I never let her lead. It's actually really fun when she leads, because usually she's been following me so much that she's gotten better at leading. Because like you say, mirroring, we mirror the people we're around. That's why if you hang around your girl so much, you'll start complaining in the way that she does. But if you hang around with another girl, what happens is when you're around something fresh and new, you present your best, and you somehow have more resilience. This is a difference between men and women that is not readily acknowledged. That a man around a new woman will feel invigorated and refreshed, but a woman doesn't necessarily want to share herself with another man, either in touch or in intimacy or in safety, only if she's unsatisfied with with the man. But he is never satisfied fully with one woman. He always lusts over another woman. And there's too many billions and trillions and quadrillions of examples of that out there, that any man you see that's loyal with one woman is totally betaized. Like his tone, his courage, his expression, the way he tolerates, the kind of communication he tolerates from her aggression level it's just a litmus test. You can measure this stuff on just his complaining, his negativity, and her aggression. And that is, you could call like an inverse indication of their value. That's not exact. It's not exactly their value. And I'm not measuring this thing here. It's a perception, right? But if a woman that complains, you typically don't lower her value too much. It doesn't lower her value so much because she complains so much. If he complains, it does. If she's aggressive, it does lower her value. If he's aggressive, well, you just got to come back to separate aggressive from violence. Violent would be like channeling that aggression towards objects, maybe so that damages the environment or damages you or other people. I'm not saying hurt people. I'm just saying there's an aggression. Aggression in women is turns off the flow. Okay. So, all right, we still have all the viewers on Facebook. We got the viewers here on Zoom. Anything else? Should anything else be said, or do we end it here? Guys, you can always find the No Fucks Given is on my Ninth Limb page now. All 6 books that have been released. That is at ninthlimb.com, so check that out. DC says reincarnation. Oh, reincarnation. Well, who can prove, like, what are we talking about with reincarnation? Like, what's the point? You can even unmute if you want to. DC, what's up? What do you want to know about reincarnation?
Yeah, what you believe on it, and what are your thoughts on it? Like Rosh talks sometimes about reincarnation and coming from Egypt, or I want to know the ancient part of it, if it makes sense. Does it make sense?
I don't have all the answers. As far as my beliefs, I think
whatever
ancient, they're very old, have a subconsciousness that's attached to them and stuck to them. And that subconsciousness is our deep rooted beliefs and genetic behaviors. But there is a soul. Where the soul came from, a soul appears to be everywhere, like space. The space between atoms, the space between parts of atoms, the space between everything is the space element. And that is the substance that you are made of too. There seems to be a viewer that comes from space, but it's locked inside of your subconsciousness. Your subconscious shrouds it. And so you see it, and then when you die, your mind is still there. Enough people died, see their body, they come back to life, they come back in their body. And your subconsciousness is a vibration because it's pictures and words and sounds. The self is not a picture, word, or self or vibration because it's space. Space doesn't have a vibration. It's the elements in space that vibrate. And so the self has no vibration, no mass, no energy, but the mind does. It matters. So the subconscious has a vibration that is harvested by aliens, around the moon and the Saturn and all of that nonsense, and return to Earth, and they give us beliefs to do that kind of shit with us. So when it comes to reincarnation, our energies are recycled. The mind is recycled. The reincarnation of the soul, I don't know exactly what happens to the soul. And the idea of where it came from is, infinity long back. The universe is so old, but maybe it's trillions of years old. Who knows? I don't know where the space in me comes from, but I'm going along for the ride. And I make a daily effort of connecting. I want to connect with the self, and I want to observe my mind and tell my mind what to be there, and put it there and feel it, and make a disciplined practice, because you're going to die and you might remember some things, but probably you won't remember much things. And the shock of death, who knows? This is the age. We're awakening now. And there's a lot that is shrouding the deeper truths, but those won't disappear just because people awaken during these times. QAnon and all of this stuff. Like, it's not going to disappear the clouded mind, the cloudiness to clear perception. It's still there. We'll just see how much we've been duped and fooled. And there will be angry. There'll be a lot of cognitive dissonance in all of the responses to that. And we'll see more clearly. There will still be lots of speculation in the New Age religions and, blending of all sorts of ancient beliefs. And everyone will think they have the answer. And it's kind of off topic to really go too much into. So as a good teaser sample, everybody can come to Science of Spiritual Growth on Thursdays. It's the same time, same link. It's just on Thursdays. And I'll talk about that. What was I going to say? There was, so reincarnation, when it comes into the earlier part of this this podcast, male aggression, female complaining, or female aggression, male complaining. You would still be you if you had been born in the opposite gender. But there is definitely a part of you that plays this game on Earth and is better suited to reverberate again, to reverberate with the machine hardware you were given. And anything all against that is really against nature. And that's something has happened in life or in the womb or chemically through the development process or whatever, or a rare mutation that causes that. Most of the theories about how homosexuality benefits heterosexual couples have mostly been debunked. Like, they give more support to the children, or, the most likely one is really that occasionally gay men procreate with straight women, that they just hook up. And actually 99% of gay men have hooked up with women at some point in their life. Woman, not plural. Many of them have been plural, but anyway, so that's the theory, of your woman having a best gay friend, he wants to hook up with her. So anyway, the male or the female aggression, male complaining, is what they would call like ego. This is something that has been nurtured in you. And if for the reason that it fits with naturally your power and your ability to, survive and replicate. That's what you were born with. Move what your mama gave you, or whatever they say, right? So then reincarnation goes beyond that, because you were not this gender every time you incarnated. That wouldn't make sense. But now, is your soul, these are some questions, like, is your soul the same soul entirely? Because does a cricket have a soul? Does a deer have a soul? Does a lion have a soul? Is it only people that have a soul? What about less evolved people, you could say, that have lived on islands for thousands of years, and so they weren't exposed? I mean, less evolved is not a politically correct term, but they were less exposed to environmental stressors, and their genome is shorter because it didn't need to code as much. There wasn't as much information to code to. So, there's some science for you. Anybody that gets like, you're, xenophobic or whatever, it's like, no, you're xenophobic because you're saying that because of who I am, what I am, and that I can't say a certain thing about another ethnicity. And somehow I'm not allowed. Because if I was that culture, what would you call me? Xenophobic against my own culture? You're just using that word then to try to stifle my speech. The truth about it. Let nobody call you racist for what you say. You have hate or you don't. You have evil or you don't. But just because you're not that race doesn't mean they're racist for saying that you're racist. Because of your race, you can't say that. When you're just, you might be negative about another race. You might say something, whatever. But that it doesn't make sense. Okay, so this should end. Catch this every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Pacific, Behavior Code. If you're catching this on iTunes or YouTube, leave a comment, subscribe. If you like this on Facebook, share it with your people, tag somebody you think would like it. Matthew Millership, is the aim to be more neutral or positive, neutral or observant? We are all one when we go to the code of consciousness. This is a belief that the new age is springing on you so that you submit and go politely. If you think that, you're not going to strive for transcendence. They want you not to strive for transcendence, like socialism. It's the socialism of spirituality. We're all going back to the one consciousness. Well, yeah, what, in like 17 trillion years? Like, how long do you have? I want this lifetime. And I don't see why not. And so we're not going back there just by default. You must earn this thing. You must earn this thing because you are enslaved on a prison planet. And then you get into other more ancient ideas about where our souls come from. Trillions of years old. The last was a statement. Really like and appreciate this podcast, brother. Louis Dagger, hell yeah, brother. Bring it back. Bring it back. Guys, share it. Get the word out. Every Tuesday. I should really put it in the description. This is every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific. Let's grow this thing. Now is the time. Now is the time to develop this information within you so you become a beacon and a pillar of solid certainty, because this is what she's needing. Whoever is she in your life, maybe it's she's in your life. She's needing and wanting the solid pillar of certainty around what? Around how you should behave, how she should behave to be with you. She wants to be with you and be it good. She wants to be good with you. She does. She wants you to want her around if she likes you. And she does like you. And she wants this. And you can help bring it out in her by literally talking to her about how she feels about you. How she feels about us. Excuse me. Here's saying it's about time to get the hoop in the lip. Permanently lost the eyebrow ring. Okay, so yes, what's it? Matthew Millership. Fuck yeah, the whole prison planet thing gives me the knowing that everything we do really matters. Well, it doesn't. It does. It does. Everything we do matters. You can repeat things. There's such a thing as noise and redundancy, and part of being in the prison planet is repeating actions. Because why did you need to do the same mistake again? Most of life is a mistake if you consider that you're looking to achieve some goal that you're not there yet. So why aren't you there yet? Because you've been doing wrong things. You're not there yet because you've been doing the wrong. How long does it take to really get there? If you were perfect, it would be very fast. Why is it drug along? Because you're making mistakes along the way. So you're supposed to not repeat mistakes. And so those actions, while they may matter, they may unmatter. They may destroy what you have created. And so come to the silent flute, brother, because this is really where the better explanations. I'll go deeper into it. I got to cut myself a little bit, just a little bit. Louis Dagger, how do we establish order without being overbearing on their life? Well, first she has to really want to listen to you. And you must have standards of your own. Establish order first by, I think the concept of aggression versus complaining, like, listen, and you need to take responsibility on yourself, that you cannot be negative and you must be better than she is. That to establish order, she must be submissive to you, at least on that subject. She could be trying to be like boss bitch around you, when you're like her yoga teacher or something. And I submit strategically. I don't lower my value, or if it does, it's in a way that anybody really looking is noticing that I don't accept fully what was said or did, but I'm smart enough, which is a high value quality. Intelligence is high quality, high value. I'm smart enough to know not to violate the environment by contradicting her or pushing my boundary or whatever. So somebody would notice that. And over time, if you hold that position, the female that was being aggressive on you, that was maybe trying to be alpha over you, it'll be subtle. It's not, none of this, what happens in the conversation with women is that in the beginning, when you're trying to explain these sorts of things, that you come across in a way that's very like you're truncating things, you're oversimplifying, and she's getting the opinion, she's getting the view that somehow, let me look through her eyes. Looking through her eyes. She's not understanding why you're talking about the differences between men and women. And she wants to know where to come in on the conversation. And where she comes in on the conversation is usually yeah, but don't you think? This is given that your logic makes sense. If you don't make sense, then she'll just try to shoot you down because you don't make sense. But you got to make sense as a man. That's your job. And so if it's making sense, but she'll naturally come, well, yeah, but whatever. It's that contending energy that fucking feminism taught women to have, to contend like that. Matthew Millership, thanks, man. Thanks double too. Blue Heart. Matthew Millership, Louis Dagger. Oh, this is the same comment. So you establish order by, having standards. And usually it comes with getting the acknowledgement. If you get her to acknowledge when you're talking, get her to acknowledge when you just made a point. If I had my girl here, you'd be here and I would be checking my acknowledgements with you. Just, are you acknowledging? Is she following the conversation? That's order, because you can't continue to build order until you get that she's understanding what you're saying. And you get that through acknowledgements. Right? And so that'll begin to build order. And then from there, you can build much more order. DC on Zoom here asks, did Arash notify about any upcoming event like Love Spell Bootcamp? Yes, there's a Love Spell Bootcamp this Friday, Saturday. Thank you, DC. Friday, Saturday. What is today? Tuesday? So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Friday night, Saturday, all day. It's going to be on hypnosis and mind control. It's going to blow your mind on these ideas of genetic behavior. It's going to blow your mind. It's the finest that planet Earth has to offer. I am connected into this. I am this. I am the finest that planet Earth has to offer. And because I'm connected into this, I am no different. I'm in it, but I am different. I'm an individual and I bring my flavor to it. The ideas of yoga, of philosophy on that respect of the body and movement. I mean, just today, how I opened my body in ways that it's unbelievable. The sensations that I have in my nervous system to expand from the spine, the upper back of the chest is so sensational that in those moments, when you practice control, focus, discipline, a one-pointed concentration, impose your view, impose your mantra, impose your magic, your mind, in the moment of intensity. When you come out of that moment, it's imprinted, it's laid down in your system deep, and you come out and you crystallize. I'm telling you, this magic works. You can change yourself from within, come to the silent flute online yoga training program. It's at ninthlimb.com. You won't be disappointed. You'll be very, very pleased. Thank you for tuning in to the Behavior Code, and I'll catch you all next Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific.